Hi guys, my name is May. So I decided to make a small video comparing 4 different USB cables. A lot of people believe that USB cables, because they're digital cables, do not make a difference. A $10 Best Buy USB cable should be the same as a $2,000 Shunyata Sigma USB cable. But I'm one of the minorities that strongly believe that cables do make a difference. I own 2 of these cables. One cable was loaned to me by Gestalt Audio, shout out to Colin in Tennessee. And then the 4th cable, I rented this cable from Cable Co. in Pennsylvania. So let's briefly talk about each of these cables. So the first one is a cable that I own, and it's called the Curious USB. It's the yellow cable. It's not the high end or the highest end Evolved, Curious Evolved. This is the yellow cable. The second one is the Phasure Lush 2 cable, which I have owned for about 8 months now. The third cable is the FTA, or the Final Touch Audio cable. This cable is recommended by Lampizator, which is why Colin sent this cable to me for me to try out and then eventually buy the cable if I really like it. So thanks, Colin. The 4th cable is something that I rented from Cable Company. It's the Shunyata Sigma USB cable. This cable is about $2,000. So unless I was so sure that this cable made a huge difference, I wasn't ready to buy this cable, which is why I decided to rent the cable and see if it works with my setup. Again, all the differences that I am going to express is just my opinion based on my hearing, my ears, my equipment, and my choice of music. I will walk you through my setup to show you exactly how my USB cable is connected in my entire digital setup. And then let's also talk briefly about my choice of music. Let me quickly show you my equipment. Device that you're seeing right here is a SOTM switch, which has a master clock input, which is supplied by the Mutek Ref 10. You're seeing a SOTM TX Ultra USB, which is a USB reclocker, but I am not using the USB reclocker in this comparison. From the SOTM switch to the CX, Antipody CX, which is my music server, I am running a audio sensibility Ethernet connection, which I will soon be upgrading with a Final Touch Audio Matis Ethernet cable. The EX is connected to the CX using the Final Touch Audio Matis USB Matis Ethernet cable, and the EX is connected to the P2 via the USB cable that is being compared right now. So the 4 cables that I compared were connected between the EX and the P2. The P2 is basically a USB to SPDIF connection or converter, and I strongly believe SPDIF is much better than USB when it comes to my choice of music. Maybe I will do another comparison connecting the EX directly to the DAC, in which case the DAC Lampizator's Amanero USB module will do all the clocking and decoding and sending the information to the DAC. But in this situation, the EX and the P2 are connected by the USB cable in question, and the P2 is connected to the DAC using an SPDIF cable, and that cable is a Von Gaillard SPDIF cable. So when it comes to my choice of music, I mostly listen to female vocal jazz and jazz. My favorite artists are Kat Edmondson, Stacey Kent, and Cecile McLaurin Salvant. I will post some of the music that I actually used for this comparison below if you want to try it out. Let me talk about the cost of these cables. I have them written down and I'm just going to read it out. The Shunyata for 1.5 meters, I believe, costs about $2,000 retail. The FTA costs $950 for a 1 meter cable. The Phasure Lush 2 costs about $320 for a 70 centimeter cable. They do sell a 40 centimeter cable, but they warn you that the 40 might be too short, and these cables are not super flexible, so you may have a difficult time with adjusting or connecting it. The Curious cable, a 0.8 meter cable, is going to cost around $350. So obviously the Curious cable is the cheapest cable with respect to the length that you get, as it's only $350 for 0.8 meters. First thing I was curious about was the sound stage, and when I talk about sound stage, both the width and the depth. I actually use this particular Indian song. I will post the name of the song below. And this actually gives me a good perspective of how wide the sound stage is. This is a very well recorded song. And I did not find any differences in either of these four cables. They all four, were fantastic. Maybe I'd probably say the FTA cable was maybe a touch better than the rest of the three cables in this soundstage and soundstage width. Imaging was again fantastic in all the cables. I actually like this particular song, which obviously, along with the imaging, gives me the depth of the soundstage. It's by Neurin, and I can't remember the name of the song on top of my head, but I'm gonna post it on below. The piano sits way forward, to the singer, and you can clearly spot where the piano sound is coming from at the beginning of the song in the first 10 seconds, or not 10 seconds, maybe first 15 seconds. I found that the FTA cable performed slightly better than the rest of the cables in the imaging as well. Voice. When it comes to voices and mid-range, I look at two things. One is the texture of the voice. For example, Diana Krall and Chantal Chamberlain, they all have a raspy voice, and I feel like that raspiness in the voice has to come through, and that raspiness cannot be smoothened out. In comparison, when I heard these cables, A, B, A, I found that the best cable that had the best raspiness or portrayed the raspiness really well as it was recorded was the Curious cable. The second place went to the FTA cable. Sorry, the second place went to the Shunyata cable. The FTA I thought was or smoothened out the voices a little bit. The raspiness didn't come through as it did on the Curious cable, so that was actually a negative point for me on the FTA cable. The Phasure Lush cable, I thought the voice was very diffuse. I did not feel like there was emphasis on the mid-range. I don't know how else to express this, but I felt like I was drawn into the music when I was listening to the music with either the Curious cable or the FTA cable, but I felt like the voice was diffused along with the other instruments when I used the Phasure Lush cable. Not sure if I'm explaining this properly or if you're able to get what I'm saying, but if you listen to female vocal jazz like Chantal Chamberlain, especially the song Beautiful Life, you would be able to see what I'm talking about when I say the voice is drawing you into the music. The next important thing that I like to when I actually compare things is instruments, and piano is my go-to instrument. It's very hard to get the transients right in piano, and I believe Curious cable definitely was a clear winner in this perspective. The FTA smoothened things out a little bit, so I was not like super happy with the FTA cable. The Shunyata was also good. Actually, I should have mentioned the Shunyata in the previous section when I talked about voices. The Shunyata's voices were actually airy and raspy. They were pretty much equivalent to the Curious cable. One of the downsides that I felt with the Shunyata cable was at times it was shouty. I don't know if it can be attributed as a little bit of harshness. For example, this particular song called "A Voice" by Kat Edmondson. There are a few places where it gets louder, and in those situations I felt like the harshness of the song came through in the Shunyata cable. The harshness was smoothened out a little bit by all the other cables. When I say harshness, I almost felt like I had to literally like turn down the volume or close my ears a little bit when those things happened. And again, I would definitely attribute this feature to the cable, because this did not happen with the other cables when all the other parameters were the same. So the first song that I used was from Cecile McLaurin-Salvant. This song is called "My Man's Gone Now." It's one of my favorite recordings, and I believe it's also a live recording. The first 45 seconds of the song, you will hear a really awesome piano, and then at one point the piano stops and there's absolute silence, and then the voice emerges out of nowhere. If you are sitting in your main listening position, you'd be surprised as to how awesome this voice is when it emerges from the middle of your listening room. One of the things that I look for in this song is this absolute silence, the black background when the piano stops before the voice emerges. So that black background clearly explains or clearly shows how quiet your cables can be, your sound system can be, and that actually makes the voice even more realistic when it comes out of the middle of the room. So one of the things that I noticed with all of these 4 cables is they did justice. To build quality, my most favorite cable is the Final Touch Audio cable. It's actually super light. I did not expect that cable to be that light, and I loved the touch and feel of that cable. It really looked like a premium $900 cable. The Shunyata, I wasn't super impressed. It's a stiffer cable, the Shunyata, and the Shunyata cable also has this thing which comes off of the USB side. This adds weight to the cable, so the cable just kept pulling off automatically from my source. Curious USB cable. Obviously, they have the 5-volt power line outside for a reason, to separate the audio from the 5 volts, which I believe makes sense. But at the same time, I find that this yellow power line gets tangled when you especially have like a lot of cables running around. Again, when I did this testing, it was kind of hard because usually when I compare 2 things, I do a A-B-A comparison. I listen to the first cable, then I listen to the second cable, and then I go back to the first cable. It was kind of hard with 4 cables because I had to individually compare 2 cables and then pick another 2 combinations and then pick the winner and go back to a different cable. So it was kind of a little difficult. But to the best of my ability, I found that the absolute winner was the cheapest Curious USB cable. I decided to do these comparisons late at night because I feel like the electricity is a little more cleaner at night, and my hearing and my mood is a little better at night. So for me to pick out differences, I always feel that my critical listening has to be at night. So I evaluated all these 4 cables at night. Any audiophile equipment, a huge increase in price does not necessarily mean that it's going to give you a huge improvement in sound. So you need to figure out for yourself if this increase in price that you're paying for a premium cable is number 1 going to fit your budget, and number 2 going to give you the amount of sound improvement that you're expecting out of it. So this is my first review of audio equipment. So I could be a little disorganized, or maybe I may not have covered all the points like all the others do. But again, this is my first video, so hopefully I get better at this. Thank you. Please subscribe if you like it. Please subscribe to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel.